Hey there, everybody. So I feel like I need to make a follow-up video to the video how to recognize a cult fear-mongering and we talked about the control method of keeping people inside of the organization, inside of the flock, inside of the group, and that one of the tactics is with fear. So we talked about what the Jehovah's Witnesses use as fear tactics, but I think it's really important to follow that up with a message of positivity and encouragement, how to kind of combat that, because yes, knowledge is power and you can recognize it, but how do you actually deal with that? Because the Jehovah's Witnesses do a really good job putting it in our heads, like brainwashed so deeply inside. Where do you go when you leave the organization? So the answer for all the J-dubs is like, you can't go anywhere without the organization. And when you start to wake up and you believe, and you always have believed, it's very hard to recognize, like, is there another group that I can attach myself to? Can I do this, without a group? Where am I going? Where should I go? And part of that is the Jehovah's Witnesses are very, future thinking. It's always, everything is in the future. And we have a really hard time living in the now, but to kind of learn to be present now and to enjoy life and see the beautiful things now, that's a little bit of a key to success in leaving the religion. I think that therapy helps a lot with being able to do that. I encourage you, if you struggle with depression and struggle with this, what's the point and where am I going? Please do seek therapy. It helped me tremendously. And I think I also had a lot of anxiety, and see it as you may. People have various opinions, but I'm going to just leave it here with that. I needed a little bit of help. There's no shame in taking something for anxiety. And honestly, it was a game changer for me. It just really took that feeling off. And I'm going to be honest, I needed it, and it felt so much better because I was crippling sick almost when I woke up. The intensity of waking up when you truly deeply believe this all your life, and then you start reading Crisis of Conscience, then you start reading Exjw Reddit, when you start listening to JT and Lady C on Exjw Critical Thinkers, and you realize, this is a scam. I spent my life doing this, and I truly believed it. It was just so shocking for me. And I mean, that little emoji with the little cloud coming out of the brain, that's what it felt like. I felt broken. I felt sick. I felt like an autoimmune disease was about to come in, and I was riddled with stress. And of course, part of that is you leave your group, you leave all your friends, your family, you leave. It was very scary. We were on our own. And you think, where do I go now? So that question is a huge deal for witnesses. And I'm going to relate this to a book I read by Leah Remini. It's her book on Scientology and her life. It was really good. I link it in the comments. I forgot the exact title now, but I'm sure it's easy to find. But she talks about when she started waking up from Scientology. And Scientology, just like all cults, just like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have it ingrained in your brain that when you leave, everything bad will happen to you. And side note, it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy that you go into the world and you kind of start living maybe so wildly and without boundaries and want to do everything that's not good for you that it can definitely backfire. I have seen that with people. They go way too crazy when they leave, and then they think, oh, the Jehovah's Witnesses were right. Look at me now, I'm a drug addict. Now I'm an alcoholic. And then they kind of want to crawl back because they think like all the good things are in the organization. So it is really important to not become a self-fulfilling prophecy, someone that the witnesses would point at and say, see, that's what happens to you when you leave. Because I find it like I see myself, I want to be a role model for people to be able to leave and say, but she did it. You know, like she's living a good life. She's happy. She did it. I can do it too. And that was what Leah Remini talked about leaving Scientology. She was crippled with fear of leaving. She was feeling like she was choosing death. Can I actually make it without Scientology? And she said she started thinking of someone that she'd never met, but who did it. And that was Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise's ex-wife. Famous movie star. Nicole Kidman wiggled her way out of Scientology, and she succeeded in life after that. It did not harm her to leave the fold. It made it better for her. She won an Oscar. She was wildly successful. And for Leah Remini, she would always go back to that, oh, no, I can do this. Nicole Kidman did it. I'm not going to be lost without Scientology. I can be better than ever without Scientology. And so I think that's really, really important because we have seen people leave who didn't make it without the organization, who did struggle without the organization. But you kind of have to see it kind of like, let's take East Germany. For example, the KGB was ruling them. It was, rules and regulated, and people learned how to live under those circumstances. And when the Berlin Wall fell and East Germany suddenly was free, a lot of people struggled with that freedom. They liked having everything controlled, and they liked that somebody was dictating how to do every little thing in their life. They became dependent on that, and people almost wanted to go back to how it was because suddenly freedom was scary to them. And it's a really, really good example when you were especially born in or grew up in a cult and your whole life is, regimented and predicted almost. Like we're kind of all set to the same life. No real education, become a pioneer, marry someone who becomes an elder. All those things are kind of like ingrained in you and your life is predicted for you, and then you wait for paradise. And suddenly all that falls away. You're free. You feel like your life, where's it going? What am I going to do now? And that is a very important critical point to recognize. No, I do not need an organization to tell me what to do with my life. No, I don't need these, 9 governing body members who are really not like Jesus at all to tell me who I can marry, who I can love, what birth control I can use, where I can work. I don't need that in my life. I am able to make those decisions and I can be happy. You can be happy. Look to people who did it. Look to people who left the fold and know Satan did not get them. They thrived. I'm telling you, I left the fold. It was terrifying. I had my mom and kids, and that was it. It was just us, and it was really scary. And I really always thought, am I really going to be able to date again? It's really hard as a single mom. And I met the nicest man ever. No one has ever treated me as well as he does. And he's quote unquote worldly. He definitely treats me 1,000,000 times better than my former Bethelite ministerial servant husband. who cheated on me. Please listen to that episode if you have not listened to it. It's the first episode on this channel. I will link it below, but my story is wild, and I followed all the rules. I married someone spiritual. He had an elder father, and it did not go well for me. I left the fold. I worked on myself, and I really do have to say, I didn't start dating right away at all. I really did a lot of work with recognizing everything about the Jehovah's Witnesses was not true and working on myself. And then when I feel like I was in a really good place, I started to date, and I'm so happy. It was wonderful. I have freedom. I have a really good, kind husband who treats me as an equal and not someone below him. It's possible. So it's out there. You can find happiness. You can find happiness here and now. Stick to positive people. Find yourself the kind of help that you need, whether that is therapy, group therapy. I think the Exjw local groups, our group, is absolutely wonderful. I love seeing them. They're so kind and encouraging. Use the tools and work on yourself and realize there's definitely happiness. Don't buy into that fear mongering. Please don't. There's happiness outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses, outside of the cult. So I hope this video can help some people recognize you'll be okay. You'll be okay.